Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Duck Call Room. We already getting started. Look, it's a day that we all knew was coming, and nothing could prepare you for it. But we're gonna talk about the old man. We're gonna talk about Phil. It's why I got sunglasses on. It's why I'm wearing a black shirt. I decided to go full Phil, right?
Full Phil.
And in that regard, I'm gonna give you the man. I'm gonna give you one of these. The man who perfected the thumbs up, right? Because everything you've seen posted about Phil to this point, there was a lot of it was one quote, which is awesome. I'm not going to honor what he said because I can't.
Don't cry.
Don't cry. That's out.
Yeah.
I'm going to honor side. I'm going to cry my eyes out today.
Yeah.
Woo.
That's one of them Robertson things there, Martin.
But we are celebrating the life of my older brother, Phil Robertson, the man known as the Duck Commander.
I had a different relationship with Phil, and it was really separate and apart from hunting because I got banned from the hunting blind for life. So we had a different kind of relationship. He led our men's small group. He taught us how to be fathers. He taught us how to be good husbands. And this was all from a biblical standpoint. And so every week we'd go in and me and a group of guys would learn from Phil. And I moved out to Abilene Christian University and got my degree in Bible. And I came back and Phil wanted to sit down and learn and hear everything I've learned. He said, did they ever get off the gospel, Mac? He calls me Mac. I said, no, Phil, they're pretty much on the gospel. He's like, yep, all right, that's what I thought, son. That's what I thought. And but our relationship was so different.
Here's the weird deal. When he was in his 20s, I'd just say 25 to 28, the motto was, who's the man?
Because he grew up tough, hard.
Well, no. I called my father and my brother, they're what I would call hard men. Okay, they thought it was weakness if you was
What we're doing right now?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like my father, no. Just I mean, he fell off a oil rig, broke his back, and Phil ended up breaking his back doing something he shouldn't have been doing at his age. But it's one of them things about who's a man, and then here's a guy that spent 95% of his life, we would call it in the wilderness, in God's creation. And yet, for the first 28 years of his life, he didn't know the Creator. Well, right now, that's where he's at. Mm-hmm. He's with the Creator.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, and I look at that as one of the oxymorons of this deal. For me personally, okay, I'm having a hard time to adjust into it because this has been, he's been my, I probably say it, I'm the sidekick, and he was the main star.
You were
for 79 years of his life, 77 of mine.
He was Butch.
Yeah.
And he was a Sundance kid, right?
Yeah.
But really, he was a naked kid.
No, same thing with Tommy. Tommy was the same way because us three, Tommy, Phil, and me, was 2 years apart. Jimmy, Frank, and Harold were way older, like 5 or 6 years, And then Judy, she was older. And then my baby sister, Jan. Well, everybody's gone. I'm the last man standing out of my father's family. Okay, and I didn't know that, that Dad, Mom, Jim, Frank, Harold, Tommy, Judy, and Jan, none of them affected me the way this one does.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm having a hard time getting my balance back, so to speak, I guess.
Mm-hmm. This one hits hard.
Yeah.
Hits a lot harder.
I don't know, I just never thought about it. Yeah, well, he's going.
Yeah.
Well, like Martin started it. Hey, we're all on that road. From the moment we're conceived, okay, and start life, we're all on the road running that direction.
Yeah. Hey, we got Stone walking in. Hey, we
Come on in, son.
Hey, we're gonna pop out. But while Hunter's getting this set up, are you still rolling, Hunter? Look, I'm just gonna let y'all know something at home. We would love to be able to do this episode without any ads or any interruptions, but this is still very much a business. There will probably be some ads in here.
Life goes on, boys.
Bill would say, "Hey, make hay while the sun's shining." So, we still got to pay bills. We still got to pay things to do. So we're going to keep it as reduced as we can on ads, but just know there will probably be some. And for that, we don't apologize because this is a business and it is a platform. And we would love to have it without it, but just know you're probably still going to see it. So we're going to get everything set up for another microphone. And yeah, we'll be right back after this. All right, we're back. Had to get some things rearranged because we're gonna give everybody a chance to be in here today because that's just who Phil was. He meant something to each and every one of us. And the funny thing is, something different to each and every one of us, but still all the same because he shared a simple message for 50 years. 50 years of
50 plus.
the same message. 50 years.
Same message.
50 years of the same message. And sometimes with kindness, sometimes with straight up bluntness, sometimes because that's the only thing
Well, I think so.
that you would respond to.
That was
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's who he was.
That was the main theme.
Yeah.
Like when Duck Dynasty first was in being born, he was sitting in his recliner and they was talking about it, telling me, here's what we want to do and all that. And said, well, he said after they got through with the spiel, he said, this will never work unless. And then he reached down beside his recliner and picked up his tethered and fallen apart Bible, unless this is involved. And the guy from Hollywood said, well, is that part of your life? And Phil said, no. He said, it ain't part of my life. It is my life. He said, well, it'll be in.
And Si, I got a lot of phone calls. I'm sure everybody did. And everybody that called, Phil had in some way influenced their lives for the gospel. And Slayball called me. He was like, I'll never be the same after sitting down with Phil all that time.
Well, no, because if you ever got in a truck or any kind of ride, or either was at his house or in a duck blind, okay, you were a captive audience.
Unwilling, huh?
Unwilling.
Oh, man.
Or willing, either way.
Man.
But you was going to hear one thing, okay, and that was the message.
Yeah.
You was going to hear the gospel. You was going to hear about Jesus, the Son of God, the Son of Man, our Savior, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, okay? Because once this man that he was human, but he was more of an animal. If you had ever met my brother, you would understand my statement.
Wow.
No, well, I'm just saying, okay, because he lived in the woods. That's why Kay, his wife, used to say, hey, when I die, bury me in the woods because that's where my husband's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Man.
Yeah. Man, you really got it. Yeah. If you did know him, that is, wow, Si.
Yeah, well, that's who he was.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you.
We just thought you were going to say like legend, hero, and you went with animal.
I told you he was a hard man. So, he is part, because he's the only man I know, that a dog would crap in the boat. And everybody else would try to get away from it. He'd just take something and, a stick or something and get it out, and I'm over there side of the boat throwing up. Nothing like that bothered him.
Summer's here, which you know what that means for a lot of people, right?
Right.
You about to be spending some time on a boat, and a lot
Or
of
a
people,
plane.
or a plane,
Mhm.
Or a
traveling,
train.
doing all the things. And if you get motion sick, we got something to help you out. Our friends over at Relief Band have the easiest way to help put the quietus on motion sickness, boys. You don't have to remember to take a pill. You just wake up, strap it on your wrist, and you go do whatever activity you're wanting to do. Relief Band is the original anti-nausea wristband that quickly relieves and effectively prevents nausea and vomiting associated with things like motion sickness, anxiety, migraines, hangovers, morning sickness, chemotherapy, and so much more.
Hunter wore it. When Hunter went to see his girlfriend, he took it with him, and wore it the whole time, and he said never got sick on the plane.
Yeah, which is wild because that's only his second plane trip ever. So,
And he normally gets sick just in everyday life.
and it's super simple because Relief Band is a band that you wear on your wrist to give you relief from nausea. Depending on how you're feeling, you can change the intensity to make it stronger or weaker. So
I'm on a 5 right now.
it's 100% drug-free, non-drowsy, works quickly before or after symptoms start, and has 0 side effects. Look, plus Relief Band's new Premier Plus model provides advanced nausea relief, includes a digital clock, and utilizes smart skin sensing technology to preserve battery life. It's not magic. It's just science, y'all. The technology was originally developed for hospitals before being sold to consumers, and Relief Band is FDA approved, clinically proven, and recommended by doctors nationwide. Do the easy thing, man. Get you a Relief Band. So if you want to cure your nausea problem fast, join the hundreds of thousands of people who are nausea-free with Relief Band. Right now, we've got an exclusive offer just for Duck Call Room listeners. If you go to reliefband.com and use the promo code,
Duck,
you'll receive 20% off plus free shipping. So head to reliefband.com and use our promo code
Duck.
for 20% off plus free shipping.
I don't think he could smell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had like COVID before it was cool or something.
Yeah,
See?
something wrong. It was something.
He
wrong
was
with
certainly
his,
immune to
senses.
certain. He was certainly immune to certain odors.
Oh, yeah.
One being his own.
Yeah, his own. That's right.
Yeah.
Look, hey, when he didn't believe in washing his hunting clothes.
Ugh.
Okay, and look, you wear clothes for about 60 days with sweat and everything else. Yeah. You get he had a aroma about him.
Oh man.
Sigh.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
Hey,
He was literally John the Baptist reincarnate.
Mm-hmm.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Bible
that was
describes that very good. One crying in the wilderness. Okay, and hey, like I said, the man lived in the wilderness.
Yep. He I never saw him eat any locusts, but he would.
He would have.
He would if he had to. He did like hunting.
Well, any man that will bite the head of a duck to kill him, hey,
Which by the way,
locusts would not be a problem.
I mean, we've all bitten their heads, right? Just because Phil
Well,
did it,
It was just
That
shock
crap-
and awe.
By the way, that crap hurts.
No.
Oh, yeah.
By the
By
way,
the way.
me and Phillip McMillan have not.
Oh, y'all ain't done it?
As one timers with Phil and the duck blind, me and Phil, you're not invited back. We
man.
didn't do that. We were
Like, even just watching Phil growing up, like when you saw it the first time, then when you got to dispatch a cripple, like, you're like,
Oh,
I
he
got to
just-
bite that thing's head.
He
Look,
just
if
did it for the shock and awe of it.
well, I
okay?
know, but if you didn't do it right,
Yeah. Oh
That's
no,
a
you
bad
had,
deal.
You did. I was fixing to say that because hey, you had to bite down and look. That's bone. Okay, so hey, you got to put some pressure on it until
Yeah.
you heard it crack.
The
Yeah.
one time,
Okay, you wasn't doing it right.
yeah,
the one time I did it, I had brain matter.
yeah.
Oh no. Oh yeah.
Shoot down the
Yeah.
back of your throat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
off
Yeah.
the side of your lip.
I said,
yeah.
well,
Oh, it
not
was
doing
all.
that again.
Hey, it was all the bad things, unhealthy or whatever, But hey,
Yeah.
but it was just,
There's a pretty.
when you got somebody that hadn't seen it. Oh, it was a treat.
There's
Watch
a,
her.
there's a pretty good artery in there too that'll
Yeah.
give you a
Oh,
shot
yeah.
of blood.
Yeah,
down
if
the
you hit
back
it
of your
right,
throat.
yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, man. I then figured out, you know what? You could just take your hands and push his head together, and you'd accomplish the same. You didn't have to use your teeth.
Yeah,
Like,
but it
you
didn't say the crap didn't. It wasn't as loud.
Well,
It wasn't as impressive.
It didn't
you had
look
a
as
kind of a
good.
silencer when you done it with your hand.
Yeah, it didn't look as good on
Yeah,
camera
yeah,
either, you know.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
man, I remember like the first time I ever met Phil, I got invited to his house church of all things. Like,
That checks.
yeah, and so
I've seen a lot of
I
those
was
stories on Facebook.
yeah, I was working at TP or whatever, and slid down there with old Curly
Dawn.
Foster, and then I walked in. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I was like, I mean, I knew of Phil because I lived here. I'm a duck hunter. Obviously, I watched everything he ever did growing up, but I still didn't know, right? And then you walk in, and there he is in his recliner, you know, and then he's just like, "Hey, sit down." And you're like, "Huh, that's interesting." You know, then they went through house church, and then he looked at me and he said, "You got a minute?" And I was like, "Yep. Sure do. I got a minute." He said, "Well, come ride with me real quick. I need to go move some boards."
We just got to go some like 2 or 3 minutes.
And
It won't take long.
I said, "Well, okay, I don't mind, you know." And I said, "But I ain't got no boots." He said, "Oh, you don't need them." And I was like, "Oh, it's cool. We're just gonna go move some boards." You know, I knew enough about water control structures and
Yeah.
everything. It's like, "Oh, we're just gonna hop on top of a pipe. He needs some help getting to a lope." No, that was the first day I ever got introduced to the elm hole via tennis shoe.
Yeah.
The lowest place on the whole property. So I ain't got them shoes no more. I never had them shoes after that day, but that's just who he was, man. And we jumped on that 4-wheeler, just a regulation 4-wheeler, and took off. And I was downwind to him the whole way.
Yep. I'm smelling something.
And man, it was tough.
Yeah.
I was like, is this guy really like, man, really? Like, I mean, it's Sunday. He should have taken a bath this morning before he went to church, right? No, I you know, but that's just who Phil was. But I remember even on the 4-wheeler ride, we stopped at the gate, got back on the gate, and he's just sitting there. Because once you got to the gate, you were trapped. That was it. There is no getting out of here without Phil at that point, especially if you ain't ever been there. And he just looked at me and he said, "Do you know Jesus?" And I said, "Like any good heathen, right?" I said, "Absolutely." You know, I mean, like,
You don't want to say the wrong thing.
yeah, you better. Well, I mean, you're with Phil Robertson on his land on a 4-wheeler, and he's got a 22 rifle on it. Yeah, absolutely, I know it. I mean, and to be fair, it wasn't an outright lie because I didn't know who Jesus was, but I knew the question he was asking, and I also knew that my answer was no, right? But I said yes because I didn't know, and he knew I was lying to him. Like, I mean, he ain't. That was one thing. He was it's a good thing he didn't play poker because he could read a human like that, right? Like he just knew from that. And then we went through the whole deal. Everywhere we stopped, he shared the gospel in nature, which for me, being a biology nerd, was really cool, right? Like we stopped and talked about different plants, and you know, I'll forever be grateful for that first time. And then fast forward a few years to getting to work with him and spend all the time on the land with him, and you know, I taught him about plants. And he taught me about floods.
Yeah, he was picking your mind about the plants that he needed to mess with.
Yeah, I was teaching him about plants and how to grow weeds, essentially, and he was teaching me about floods because I had no idea. I didn't know what backwaters did. That man single-handedly knows more about the Washita River than the Army Corps of Engineers who quote-unquote designed it. Phil Robertson knows more about the Washita River, the most knowledgeable man about on the face of the earth, aside from Jesus himself, knows more about that Washita River than any person ever will going forward because it was his lifeblood. It was everything to him.
You know, some of the things that he did were things that human beings shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
Case in point, when he found out that he needed to thin out those bitter pecans on his property, about 1,200 acres, he didn't call a logger and say, "Come get these bitter pecans."
Nope. One by one, baby.
He cut them. I mean, they wasn't big. They were, about 2 inches, 3 inches. He had a weed eater with a blade on it, and he made sections, and he weed eated I would say over 10,000 bitter pecans.
Yeah.
He cut them with a weed eater. Then he had Dan behind him with a spray bottle with some
He didn't have Dan at first.
herbicide.
That's what I did for.
Yeah. It's hacking.
We walked through the woods over there.
Yeah.
Okay. He'd cut it down to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. I will spray it. And we literally,
Oh,
tens of thousands of bitter pecans he cut with that weed eater.
yeah. When I first started here, the bitter pecan was still the number one enemy, followed closely by the beaver.
I'll fix that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I got plenty of time over there on the squirt bottle. He wouldn't ever let you do the cutting because the cutting was fun. But he'd let you stand there and watch him getting eat up by mosquitoes squirting chemical on the roots.
He also did the same thing with the button wilders
Yeah.
on the pipeline and the lane and all that. I said, Phil, why don't we just bush hog it? He said, are you crazy?
Are you?
No, that's why I say he's part animal. I'm telling you.
But he also he called himself a C+ man every time. Oh, I'm a C+ man myself. But
Nah.
That's just being humble.
Yeah.
he's one of the smartest human beings I've ever known.
Yeah, he was sharp.
Yeah,
man.
did you see that post Sadie made of that old video? I mean, that's a highly intelligent man.
Yeah. Well, it takes
On
a
that
highly
video.
intelligent man to be humble enough to say, "Oh, I'm a C+ man myself." But like he lived down there and he was an animal. But then, he opened up the Bible and your mind would be blown.
Yeah.
No matter how many Bible classes you took, no matter how many times you've been to church, he'd just flip it open and all of a sudden be at the page that he wanted to be at. And I'm like, I don't even know how you just did that.
Oh yeah.
But it's because he was so smart and
Well, if you had asked him, he would tell you page whatever on the right side, about 3/4 down.
Yeah.
You'll find the answer to what you just asked me.
Yeah. He
Yes.
yeah, he's the one that taught me. I mean, he's the one that told me this. He said, look here, he said, you would rather look dumb and be
Open your
smart
mouth and prove it.
and be smart than vice versa. He said, look, I'm down here. Nobody thinks I know anything. He said, it's the most freeing thing in the world. He said, if you get up there and you got to start spitting it out, he said, that ain't where you want to be. He said, you just end up right down here. And the man, I mean, for 3, maybe 4 years, I spent a lot of time. I mean, I slept on his couch, and at the lodge, and because he had a new young laborer, right, that was on the payroll, so Willie wasn't gonna say nothing. He
Free
went
labor.
Yeah, he went crazy one year and decided we needed to do everything at night. And so I wasn't going to drive back down there after 2 hours of sleep. I'd just go in there and sleep on the couch, or sleep in the playroom.
That way, let me get a little rest.
Yeah, let me just get a little rest. About once a week I'd go home. But I mean, he had
Bring
me
some fresh clothes.
Yeah, he'd have me 24/7 down there, and man, it was just. And Godwin was right there with it because he just went crazy one year. He went
moving the decoys.
Everything had to be done at night.
When I would
everything
come in,
done in the middle of the night.
When I would come in on leave, okay, to spend, and that's where I spent it with him and his family. And I needed a 2 months vacation when I actually had to go back. Because it was like you was talking about. Oh,
Yeah.
It'd be 9 o'clock at night.
Mm.
He'd say, come on.
Yeah.
Say, what? He said, I got to go check something. He said, ain't going to take me about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I've heard that one
2
time.
a.m. in the morning, we get home.
Yeah. All right, y'all ready to jazz up your yard this summer? You should. Why not?
Jazzy.
Jazz it up, man. Quit doing the same old thing. Quit
That's
doing
right.
the same azalea bushes everybody else got, the same crepe myrtles, all them things. Get something unique, man. Go visit fastgrowingtrees.com and find you something that will make you stand out, right? Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers. You deserve to be one of those 2 million people. Everybody deserves to be happy. So go get you something from Fast Growing Trees. Fast Growing Trees offers a wide variety of plants, including fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, and shrubs, all tailored to your climate and space with an easy online ordering process and quick delivery straight to your door. Plus, with their Alive and Thrive guarantee and expert support, your plants will arrive healthy and you'll receive guidance on choosing the best plants and learn how to properly care for them, right? So they make it easy. Type in your number, your zip code, tells you what zone you're in, gives you a whole list of things, whatever you're looking for. Like it really, sometimes it's a little bit of sensory overload because you didn't realize just how much stuff could grow in your zone. It's pretty incredible. Like, you want bananas? You want papayas? They got it. Figs.
They got pretty much everything.
Blueberry bushes. I always get caught up in the fruits because,
That's me.
big yard, small yard, no yard, 6,000 plants to fit any space. If you know green thumb is required, they have a full-blown resource center. Anything that you need to know, you can find at fastgrowingtrees.com. And if you have zero experience, the website is all you need to find to get started. You want to know what the website is? We're about to get there. Look, this spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code
Duck
at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code
Duck
at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com code.
Duck.
Now's the perfect time to plant. Use
Duck
to save today. Offers valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply.
I was in my young 20s, and I would go down there a lot, and he'd have that jukebox jamming. One thing that we had in common, we loved loud music, and Si's the same way.
Oh, yeah.
And he would be jamming to Stranglehold. He loved that Stranglehold. And he also loved Love is Like Oxygen. You remember that song, Si?
Nope.
Love is Like Oxygen. Anyway, he loved it. He'd play it all the time. And I never knew what hard work was until I went down there. And I'm telling you, I slept on that couch. I ate Miss K's food and almost died working with him.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't used to it. I was a student, you know what I mean? But when we went to Vegas for a show, me and Si and a couple other guys were sitting with Phil up front, and sitting beside us was Ted Nugent. And old Phil said, "All right, Mac, come here, son." I walked over to him. He said, "That's old Nugent right there. Go get him. Bring him over here." I was like he's got no question in his mind. Ted's gonna come over. I was like, "Yes, sir," because I never told Phil no. I mean, I was like, "Whatever."
Yeah, let me figure it out.
Yeah, so I went and I introduced myself, and Ted was like, "What, Phil Robertson?" He jumped up and he ran over there and he shook his hand and hugged him. He was like, "Man," and they started talking, and that's the only time I ever seen Phil really light up when he met somebody.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Oh, unbelievable.
And he just had the confidence. Phil had so much confidence. When I would ask him a question, he would just say, "Here's what you do. This is it."
He was very black and white.
Very black and white. I said, "Phil, I can't get my dad," and I was telling Justin this story. "I can't get my dad to listen to me several years ago. I want to talk to him about Jesus, but he keeps shutting me out." He said, "Yep, here's what you do." And he gave me a plan that I did not think would work, but I did exactly what he said. I went back to my dad's house. I knocked on the door. He opens up the door. I said, "What do you want me to say?" He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What do you want me to say?"
Well, at your funeral.
At your funeral. What do you want me to say about your relationship with Jesus? And my dad started crying, and he said, "Come in here and sit down." And we started right there and had a conversation that we never would have had because Phil gave me that instruction. He was like, "This is going to work, Mac. I guarantee you he's going to talk to you." And he did, and I'm so thankful for that.
But that was his message. Because I have a different relationship with Phil than everybody in here, because mine was I was a church kid, and he was the different elder at church because they all wore suits and they'd have meetings, and then here
you was afraid. Just tell the truth.
Scared to death of the man.
Oh, how could you not be?
He abolished the dress code at church.
Yeah. And so
when Phil started coming to church, people started wearing camo, dipping snuff, wearing hats,
bringing in the bottle and spitting it away at church.
You look down
no
the aisle,
shoes.
you got rednecks spitting in bottles as far as you can see.
Right.
And I thought this was the greatest church there ever was.
in the history of man.
Getting change out of the offering, making change.
But that was growing up, like, because my papa was an elder, and all my friends' granddads were elders, and then there was Phil and Mac to some extent, but Mac wasn't like as just outright about it as Phil. Like,
no, Mac wore buttons on his shirt.
Yeah, Phil just show up in a t-shirt, and then he'd go,
he was just a cleaner version than Phil.
Yeah. But Phil would come teach like the junior high boys.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I got to be one of them.
Oh. How'd that go?
You learned all about STDs.
Yeah.
But his message was the same. It was, you're going to die, and if you don't keep that thing in your pocket, you're going to die even quicker.
Yeah.
But it was...
That was his line, man.
It was just
Golly,
so
I
amazing
miss that.
growing up with that
Keep it.
guy to look to and be like, what is he all about? And
Who is this crazy person, and how did he become an elder?
And
You
I
know?
look, I'll never
Right.
forget. I was running through the back of the church, and I didn't see him. And he goes, Owens, and I was like, oh gosh, this is
Yep.
it. I'm going to meet Jesus. And he
Yeah.
just looked at me and goes, you're a good kid. Keep it up. And he just walked off. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm hanging on to that one and I've remembered it forever, just because he took the time to just tell me I was doing okay.
And that's as close as you ever gonna get to a compliment.
Yeah, and I remember
Right.
it, and it's just the impact he made. Like we're sitting in this building,
Yeah. Oh,
everyone here's job.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get him. I don't want to get emotional, but
Well,
Whew.
that's fine. The
hey, I do have a fun one though. I learned a news story
about Phil.
about Phil and Uncle Joe.
Oh wow.
So Uncle Joe ran bakeries for a long time. So obviously he didn't call him Joe; he called him Bread Man.
Hey, Brett. Oh yeah.
Oh, Bread
Everybody
Man.
gets a nickname.
You were known by whatever you did.
Yep.
Right.
And
that
so-
was
And God help you if you got any
deformities.
abnormalities.
If you were deformed,
Because hey, that's who you become.
it's just like before we got started, Sinky called me Buster Crab on the phone. I ain't heard nobody. I didn't even know who Buster Crab was when Phil hung me with that. I had to get on the interwebs, as he called them, to find out who Buster Crab was,
But Joe got into running. He ran like a marathon like 10 years ago or something like that. And he's running. You'd always see him. Well, one day he's running and Phil almost accidentally runs over him.
that checks out.
Yeah. And so this story goes, I'm like, that checks out. And so, Joe, us Owens have anger issues. So he throws his hands up in the air. And Joe goes to approach him at church the next time they're there. He's like, Phil, what was that? He goes, well, Bread Man, I saw you running. So the only logical thing is something was chasing you. So I was trying to hit whatever you were running from. And we laughed at that, but man,
Golly.
he said, you running, I will hit whatever's chasing you.
Ooh,
And
man.
that, to me, that's so Phil.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm trying to. You just look back on it. And I remember when I first started here, I was getting all like the information at duckcommander.com emails, all that stuff. When we got invited to a place to go duck hunting up in Nebraska called Cheyenne Ridge, I'll never forget it because of the travel it took to get there. And I just, by happenstance, walked in there and told Phil about it. And he was like, yep, load up the truck. And I was like, do what? This was like November 1st, something like that. And I said, what do you mean load up the truck? He said, I think I'm ready to go duck hunting. Load up the truck. We going. They invited us. We going. I was like, okay. Well, we roll out at about 2 p.m. We don't make it off a red cut road before we get pulled over for speeding. Like legit. On Red Cut Road, it was me, Phil, Jace, and Jep, all in one pickup truck. 4 grown men with everything we had in one pickup truck. On Red Cut Road, we're pulled over. Sheriff's officer walks up there. Of course, this is pre-Duck Dynasty, pre all that stuff. He walks up there. Phil got his license, registration. Cop said, you know why I pulled you over? And Phil just looked at him and said, whatever you got to do it quick. We're going duck hunting. And I was like, wait, do what? Like, I'm just sitting on the back seat, like a young fat boy. Because, I was about 300 pounds at that time. And I'm like, what did this man just do to this cop? Like, he just said, whatever you got to do it quick.
Well, I got places to be.
And I said, well, we getting that ticket. That ain't no big deal, whatever. And the cop walked back about, 2 minutes later. He said, Mr. Robertson, please slow down. And I hope y'all kill him. And then we're gone. And we rolled to Nebraska. I'm talking about out there, Platte River, Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
Rolled at 2 p.m. from here and stepped out of the truck at legal shooting hours. Like, drove all the way through the night, got out of the truck, and everybody just kind of slept on the back seat. We just rotated around the truck. Everybody take turns driving, and we'd rotate around the truck. And Phil was so mad at ducks, even then, that there was a lot easier way to do what we did. but it wasn't part of the journey, right? Like it wasn't part of
that. Ain't part of it.
I know, and that was it was just so wild for me to see because, like, you see the videos and you think, and I'm just fresh working here, like all the things, and I'm like, ain't no way, man. A lot of that stuff's edited, No, the man was just plumb mad at him. He was just plumb pissed off, which is why I found it so funny that I don't know if y'all have seen it yet, but the Babylon Bee article on Phil is one of the greatest titles.
I haven't seen
it. Phil Robertson devastated when he's met at heaven's gates by 12 million angry ducks. Which Babylon Bee is all satire. So like the name of the title it made me laugh.
Looking at it.
Look at it. And it made me giggle.
That's good. Look. That's good. I don't care who you are.
Is that not one of the best things ever?
That is good.
Oh man.
That is good.
And amongst all the emotions we've had since it all came out, when I stumbled across that one yesterday, man, I got plumb tickled. I mean, I just got plumb.
Because he talked about that
tickled.
a lot.
Oh,
okay. Tell me, well, first number one, I remember when he was telling all of us about the game warden invited him to speak. And he started when he drove up. When they finally handed him a microphone, and he said, boys, when I drove up here and I seen all them green pickup trucks, he said, you know what my first thought was? He looked around and he said, run.
Are you in? Oh, man.
Then he said, but hey, I ain't going to have to worry about it when I get to heaven. He said, because none of you suckers are going to make it.
Yeah.
So,
not one.
So I got a question for you. Why was Phil so fixated on riding the hole?
Hey, like Martin said.
He's mad at him, man.
He didn't. Infatuation with misery.
Well, he didn't have but one gear. Whatever he was doing, he had one gear. Hey, wide open.
Well, I mean,
because bass fishing. He used to bass fish the same way duck hunting. We would go and be at the lounge, or launching the boat at 4 a.m. And like we'd be leaving at 7 that night. Yeah. Just all day long. Just
well, he had
that's
that
why
line.
when Martin said, when he said, "Hey, I just finally got where I just hey, when we get through, regardless what time it was, I just lay down and catch."
Well, you know what it boiled down to. He finally admitted it. The reason why he liked to hunt from daylight to dark, he said, Stone, is either this or sit at the house listening to an old woman talk on the phone.
Yeah. My favorite.
Yeah.
The best ones.
Rather be?
The best ones too. Even
that's sad. Married to a woman, and then hey, you gotta hunt all day.
Well,
to stay away from her.
No, but like the problem wasn't Kay. It was Kay always had a posse.
Oh yeah,
her
Kay,
girls,
the muffins.
Yeah, it's like me and the boys.
The muffins. Yeah, Kay would. I mean, Phil would say we'd be sitting there hunting. He said, "Call Miss Kay and see if them muffins have left yet." And I'm like, "Well, what does that matter?" He said, "Well, if they ain't done crying, I ain't going back."
He'd say, "Call her up and see if you can hear a bunch of hens cackling in the background."
His favorite little saying was, hey, boys, hey, look, there's two things to worry about. Hey, women getting together until they get the crying done, or stampede.
Cattle, when women and cattle stampede.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When they stampede.
Yeah, he had a way with words, man. It's starting to warm up. It finally quit raining, so you know what's going to happen, man.
Bugs!
Here come the bugs. They're coming inside looking for a drink of water. You know how to stop it yourself? Just like that. With our friends,
magic wand.
With our friends over at Pesty. Pesty is the do-it-yourself pest control. They give you the same products the pros use at a quarter of the cost, and their kit makes it so easy it only takes a few minutes to apply. Other pest control companies charge over $800 per year, but with Pesty, you can get started at just $35 per treatment with a customized plan based on your location, bugs, and climate. Nobody likes bugs on the inside, man. Bugs in your yard, that's fine. That's where they're supposed to stay. But coming in the house, That's a different deal. And like now there's bugs all in our house because the boys like to grab them and bring them into the house, which isn't the bug's fault,
But
they can't live there too.
they got
So
to go.
you get a kit that includes a sprayer, mixing bag, pesticide, gloves, and instructions you can complete in less than 10 minutes. Super simple, super affordable. And you don't have to worry about, your bug guy walking in on you naked in the shower. It's happened to me a few times.
It's weird that that's more than one.
Well, I think we just like to keep each other guessing on that deal sometimes. But look, Pesty's kit includes a reusable electronic sprayer, mixing bag, pesticide, gloves, and instructions. You can complete the application in less than 10 minutes. You can get rid of over 100 types of bugs, from spiders and ants to roaches and stink bugs, with Pesty's customized formula. And the best part, kid and pet friendly. I got kids and I got pets, so that's a big deal. The pesticides they ship are fully registered and have been used in hospitals and schools all over the country. Plus, with Pesty's 100% bug-free guarantee, if the bugs don't go away, they will give you a full refund. Now is the time to protect your home from bugs with Pesty. Go to pesty.com/ for an extra 10% off your order. That's pestie.com/ for an extra 10% off.
Oh, he loved to tell those women how good their hair looked, and,
Oh, man.
how nice their clothes were.
Yeah. How good they cook.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, Miss Kay's staying with us now,
Okay.
and she's doing good. She's surrounded by her family.
That's
There's
awesome.
people in and out. I mean,
Your driveway was hopping yesterday.
No,
yeah,
hey.
constantly. So she's doing well, and she's
Hey,
eating
look.
well.
She's back to her normal life.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, hey, look, they got that from mom and dad. Because there was always somebody else at the house.
I made some ribs yesterday,
I did.
And,
I did too, man. I couldn't pass it up.
and then Jace took a bite out of that rib, and he said,
Too
"No,
tender. Too tender.
too tender."
That's right.
Too
Too tender.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
Phil
so-
would say.
Uh-huh.
He said, "You missed it on that, Stone."
Yeah.
And Stone would look up at me and said, Phil said, "Way too tender."
Yeah. When I took mine off the smoker yesterday, they broke in half, and I just started dying laughing, man.
Yeah.
I just
Nope.
started dying like, nope,
Missed
too
it.
tender. You missed it on them, boys.
Too tender.
Yeah.
There's going to be them little things, man. There's going to be, it's wild. Like just all the chaos that ensued around that man too. It was, there's so many lines, so many stories. Like I sat there on my phone yesterday. I'm so thankful. Like the past 5 or 6 years when I would go duck hunting down there from time to time, I didn't hunt most of the time. I just sat there and just watched and listened. So I got to going back to my phone and listening to Phil Robertson blow a duck call. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never get to hear that again
Well,
until we get there. But like Phil he was different on a duck call than anybody else too. Like he is the only one that sounds like that with a duck call. So like and sitting there and watching the look in his eyes on the because the way he watched ducks when they work, like the way he would cut those eyes and all those things, man, there's just a lot of that. You're never going to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to do whatever you can do to make sure you get a chance to see that again. Right. And I don't know that there's going to be hunting in heaven. I hope there is. I think we'll be mildly distracted when we first get there, but we got eternity. So eventually I think we'll get back to duck hunting.
we'll get used to it. We'll get used to it.
Eventually we'll get back to duck
to
hunting.
adapt.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to step up there and go get in a duck blind. I think there's a few other things we're going to do. But I got tickled yesterday morning, like even the day after he's gone from this earth, and I wake up at daylight and it's just thundering and lightning and carrying on, and I'm like, boy, they must be whacking them up there. I mean, like, because it just fits, right? Like just boom, bow, boom,
My
boom,
kid
bow, all
used
the
to ask,
thunder. And
What's that noise, Dad? And I said, the angels and God are bowling.
yeah, bowling. Yeah, I just looked at it as a good duck hunt on a cold front because I don't think the seasons matter as much up there. I think some of them rules and regs are gone. The old way is gone and the new is in.
Ain't no green jeans.
12
up there.
million angry ducks.
Yeah, 12 million angry ducks. The only thing been funnier is if it had Joe Oliveris' picture there.
Yeah.
Because if Joe made it, I bet he met him at the gate and said, "How'd you do it? How'd you do it? How did you go
Pull it
that
off.
many years?"
Yeah, that'd be one of the eternal Jesus say, Jesus, you sure you want this guy in?
Yeah, you sure? Are
Come
you
on,
sure?
Come on, that's Joe Oliveira, there, boys.
For our listeners' sake, who is Joe?
Federal game warden.
Game
There it
warden.
is.
The North Louisiana
Hey,
federal
one of
game
them that
warden
would
for
go
a
to
stretch.
all lengths.
He was
Get you.
famous,
He was infamous.
infamous.
Yeah,
We're trying to get Phil.
Phil, we were coming out of the duck hole. There was a guy fishing on the bridge. Phil said, "There he is." Jay said, "Who's that?" He said, "Fed."
That game warden.
And Jay said, "It's this old redneck fishing off the bridge." Phil said, "Nope."
Nope. He said,
Nope.
you
He
missed it.
said, "Round spectacles."
Yeah, he said, hey, you missed it.
Rednecks
He's got
don't
on them
wear
shades that are round.
spectacles.
Hey, the next morning,
There he was.
he was out there in the brush. And
And we ain't seen
Phil
a game
said,
warden
hey,
in 20
yo, when
years.
he said, y'all kill anything? Phil said, hey, you been out there all morning, watched this. You know what we killed.
yeah.
You know, and the
I
guy
think the
looked up
line
and kind of
was-
looked up at him, kind of surprised looking. He said, son, we saw, hey, you kept flushing the woodies all morning coming in here.
Then he said, "How do I get out of here?" And Phil said, "The way you came."
The
He said, there
same
ain't no
way.
shorter or better way. And Phil said, no,
Hey,
got to go back the way you came.
is
son."
he the game warden that WE that hopped in the boat with WE and to come to the duck blind?
No.
No.
That's a different one.
Yeah, that's a different one.
But they were after y'all, Si.
Oh, hey, they had reason to be after us.
Yeah, back
You know, and I mean, I was just, that was just part of life.
yeah,
Game warden station.
back BC, that was a
Yeah.
that was a
Well, that was
major
kind of
part
a badge of honor.
Yeah.
You know, we'd come in and Mama would send us to the store. We'd go down, the game warden would be in by now, right? They'd be talking, you know, and we'd walk in, you know, and said, we noticed that White Falcon was down there at Grimes's pecan orchard. We said, what about it? Because it's right over there, but below the orchard was a duck hole. You know? So yeah, it was at it was at the pecan orchard. We was in there last night whacking them ducks. Well,
Oh shoot.
Well, you
man.
know, we have 15 floating duck blinds, and 12 of them are sitting on cypress logs. Those cypress logs all came from Shinny Lake, which is how many miles away from our duck hole? 20.
Via River, probably just under. Well,
Too far to move.
yeah, probably
entire
20,
logs.
probably between 20 and 25 miles.
Yeah.
But by the time you get down the creek, because you
Right.
got to go from the creek.
that was a feat, and I wish we'd have had, you know, we didn't have no money back
Well,
then.
these are just not normal cypress. These are big cypress logs.
Yeah.
The river came up.
He spent 2 weeks on Shinny Lake in backwater. Okay, finding them, tying them up. Okay,
And making a train.
and
He made a train with his boat.
and
and he
Dan, you got to
rode-
think about this: backing out, pulling like 12 giant cypress trees that are floating behind you
In reverse,
in reverse,
Yeah.
in reverse,
all the way to the river.
all the way to the river. And like I remember the day like it was yesterday. There was about 15 people on the bridge at Shinny Lake,
At the spillway.
at Spillway.
Yeah.
We're coming, me and him. I'm running up down the logs. If I hang up on anything, pushing it off. You know, he's motoring backwards. You know, we look up and they said, what are you boys doing? Bill said, take him to the river. And he said, you ain't gonna get that crap to the river. Bill said, hey, just hide and watch. We had to push up on the boat where the boat would go down to get that motor under the bridge. That's where the water was at, okay? It took us 2 years. We floated it halfway, and the water was falling out. Well, it got too low. We couldn't go any further. So we tied them up. Yeah. It was 2 years later. Floodwater come back up. Hey, we got it down the river, took it on his land, and he took just, you know, okay, I'm going to have one here. I'm going to have one over there. He untied 2 or 3 logs together where he warned him where he was going to have his blind.
Yep. And we're
Incredible.
still hunting on those cypress logs to this day.
I remember the first time down there, first backwater I experienced with him, watching that man move a floating duck blind was the most incredible.
Well, I was fixated.
That's the most incredible
This ain't
feat.
something.
He's
Like-
way better at it than Jace is.
Oh no. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
the man would have two boats tied to it, but one man operating it. And I was in the boat. I said, "What do you need me to do?" He said, "I need you in the middle for balance." And so I would just sit in the middle of the boat, and then he would run from the boat to the log to the other boat to the back and forth and never miss a step. If I'd have tried to do that, I'd have been dead. Like I'd have been swimming in 17 foot of water. And Phil's just like a cat. Even, he was twice my age. And it was just the most incredible thing I have ever seen pulled off.
Well, I would have had to check with the yearbooks. I think he weighed when he was playing quarterback at high school. He weighed 175, maybe 180. And I actually tried to tackle him one day.
That didn't work out, did it?
No, like it was like hitting a tree. Because when I hit him perfect, hit him below the knees, and I was going to wrap my arms around him and take him down.
Yeah.
Well, he done a little spin maneuver, slung me one way, and then threw a pass to the halfback going around the end, picked up about 15 yards.
Oh,
But it was just like running and hitting a tree. The boy was strong. And like when Kay found the house down there on the river, two of them, he used to look just like Popeye the Sailor Man. His forearms were twice as big as his biceps.
Oh, man.
And that was just from pulling a soft cotton rope on a hard aluminum boat. He had literally cut a 1-inch groove in that hard aluminum.
Yeah.
I got a picture of them grooves I took the other day.
Yeah.
It's that aluminum.
Which is insane when you think about it.
Soft cotton rope.
Yeah, soft cotton rope, and it cut an inch groove in hard aluminum.
You know what? Speaking of that, being so tied to that river, I remember it was actually the flood that caused us to move into this building. We were working down there. We're sitting in the duck call room, building duck calls, doing all the things. The duck call room there, the little shed up beside it. And
between the house.
Phil come running in there and grabbed me and said, "Come go with me real quick." And I was like, well, where in the world are we going? We're pretty much on an island here at this point. Like, where are we going? As of course, Willie's the boss, right?
Yeah.
Willie the boss.
Yeah.
But Phil's the boss. So whatever that equals, you do. And so there I took off with Phil and we're walking towards the water and I'm like, what in the world will we go get in a boat and take off? And we're going to capture a piece of styrofoam.
That he saw floating.
That he saw. He was sitting there in the kitchen cooking us lunch. 'Cause that's what they did every day. He looked out the window and saw the styrofoam getting ripped down the river by the current that broke out from somebody's dock or houseboat or something. And he was not going to let it go. And by the way, y'all had any idea how much waterlogged styrofoam can weigh?
That's why he got you.
That's why he thought he got me. And I was like, Phil, we just got to tie this thing up, man. Like, we can't get this. It was as big as the boat. And I said, what are we going to do with this? He said, well, we're going to get it back and we're going to cut it in half. Then we're going to go shove it up under the end of that one duck blind that's got a little list to it.
Got a little list to it.
So sure enough, we tied it. We're motoring back against the current, get it up there with hacksaws and just saw the side. He was like, I think it's about this big. And he's just eyeballing stuff. And then, of course, when we take it over there, it fits perfect. Like, no, he wasn't a carpenter, and he'll tell you he's not a carpenter. But
nothing's square.
He knew the dimensions just off of his head. Like, yeah, that ought to be about right. That man, there'd nothing go floating down that river that was of use that he saw that he didn't go get. He got so many hydraulic fluid buckets. That's where he even had a piece of equipment that took hydraulic fluid. If it come floating down the river, son, he went and got that yellow bucket. And we sat on them for too many hours, which one of the reasons our backs are all trash because we sat on a 4-gallon hydraulic fluid bucket.
He's got the world's largest collection of propane bottles.
Yep, that too.
I figured that's the way we would go out. I really did.
An explosion?
No, I really did. I'm serious. I really did. Because look, there's like we'd be sitting there talking about, hey, he just every once in a while it hit him. Hit the ground, grab 4 or 5 of them empty bottles, propane bottles, let's take him out. Because hey, we had 15 in that big blind.
I know.
Hey, we had 3 big duck blinds tied up there. Right? We had beds in our kitchen.
Oh,
You hear
man.
Well, if that one had went, we'd have went to heaven. Quickly.
We never would have felt a thing.
Yeah, because that thing had like 20 of them in there, and half of them were full.
No, year before last, I told Anna, I said, there's about a 50-50 chance I'll survive duck season. I said, it's either going to be from a tree limb killing me, a propane explosion,
Cottonmouth bites you.
Cottonmouth, or Si or Phil going to blow my head off with a shotgun.
Oh, man.
When they got later in the years duck hunting, that shotgun just
it eased a little closer to you.
I told
Wasn't it?
Jace, I said, we got to kill them before they get over here. 'Cause both of them barrels, right over the top of our head.
Oh,
and
man.
Phil would say, well, y'all should have killed them.
Yeah.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served in this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was actually made
in America.
America, baby.
Thank you. And that's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag that Si owns many of, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for Flag Day and the U.S. Army's birthday.
Hey.
Si, how's that make you feel?
That makes me feel proud.
Yeah, and you know what? It's easy to support this cause. All you have to do is switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk this month, and a portion of every sale will go towards providing these high-quality flags to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill in half. It's a win-win-win-win-win when you switch, because the average family saves over $1,000 a year. And when you switch, you're helping out these vets and you're providing a flag for some of our great vets. And it's super easy. I did it. That's how you know it's easy. Kept my phone number. Boom.
Hey, you're putting $1,000 a year back in your pocket.
Look, so just go to puretalk.com/duck to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/duck to support veterans and switch to America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
Yeah, I got to. That's why I got so many videos on my phone, because the last thing I was going to do was stand up. Like, Phil got to where standing up was optional. Duck hunting.
Yeah.
Oh,
The one time I hunted with Phil, my goal was do not get in the way.
Yeah.
Just sit here. Well, I took that too hard because they were all putting out decoys. I didn't know what to do, so I was just trying to hide and not get in the way. And Stone all of a sudden said, well, you just going to sit on your butt and watch us do all the work? And Phil was sitting beside me and looked at me and did that. And I was like, I'm sorry. And I started running to him. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Well, funny, Anna told me Bella was there with Anna the other day with Phil and Kay, and Bella told me this, that Phil all of a sudden just started yelling at somebody, like barking orders. We couldn't figure out what he was saying, but he was he said my name. He said, and then he's talking about the decoys were not right. So he was telling me where to put the decoys from his bed, which I thought was that's perfect.
Boy, that is a fitting.
Because I can't tell you how many times Phil and that old man sitting right there barking orders from the duck blind.
Point.
After I've done put all the decoys out.
Point.
They said, nope, you need to move 40 of them over here.
And hey,
move them over
they
here.
never paid attention to me at all. I said, boys, hey, y'all had to check the wind. I said, y'all throw them out. You got to move them later. Well, later they'll have to move them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you hard-headed rascals.
Yeah. Yeah, because you ain't.
Yeah.
No, I ain't hard-headed.
Oh, man.
I'm the easiest person there is to get along with. Do what I tell you.
As always feels like bounce on out there, move them plugs real quick. Bounce on out there.
Yeah.
Bounce on out there.
Roll them.
Roll them over this way.
Yeah.
That way they end up right in front of me.
Man, the first
You
time
know.
I helped Jace put out decoys, Si was hollering something while we were putting out decoys. I said, "What's he saying?" Jace said, "Don't pay no attention to him.
That's
He's
right.
he's an idiot."
Oh, and hey, here's the deal. About 3/4 of the decoys are down there in front of Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, hey, look, you told me, hey, just a few. Throw a few over here by where me and Phil are, you big dummy.
Oh,
Go
man.
rascal.
I mean, there's so many.
And then they wonder why we have to shoot down that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I gonna get his.
Yeah.
Well, they learned it from Tommy. So,
Hey.
I know
I
this
was
ain't
fixing to say Tommy was the worst of all.
Ooh.
One what?
Yeah, one what? That was another man, though. Hey, golly. Man, you Robertsons are wild, man. Y'all are something. Y'all are
Well, Tommy could not enjoy the hunt unless he was working.
a lot of
okay.
truth to that.
Yeah.
Which he got that from being side by side with your brother. Because Phil rarely sat idle, no matter if we were duck hunting or what. He did not sit idle. It was
some of the funniest moments is, okay, they were all, Phil was the head one. All schizophrenics,
paranoid.
schizophrenics. Just anytime that someone would cut, you'd hear a saw. The next thing you're going to hear is psh, psh, spray paint. Anybody that was spray paint where you cut a willow, there's something wrong with him. Okay, or if you hear it cracking, so hey, leave a brush alone.
Yeah. I heard that was the line.
And I said, well, hey, if you and your kids would stop cutting down a tree and putting it where I stand, I wouldn't have to break this brush.
Yeah. That was the line I got first time I went hunting down there. They're like, you sit there. So I went stand up. Well, I'm a big man. I went stand up, stuff started breaking.
Yeah.
And all I heard from the other end of the block, easy on my brush. Easy.
Yeah,
I'm like,
easy with the brush, boy.
I'm just standing up, man, but I'll sit back down. Like, no problem. Like,
the hole I was given was just big enough for a shotgun to fit through.
yeah, that's fine. Like, I'll sit back down. I know you work but I never appreciated how hard he worked on brushing them blinds.
Well,
till I was down there cutting brush with him in July, because that's when I found out that if you cut willows in July, the leaves will stay on them a lot longer than if you cut them during September. So Phil always had a pile of brush bigger than this room.
If he
ready to go.
Yeah, if he told you to do something, it might sound stupid.
Yeah.
Trust me, he had a purpose in this. It had a reason to do it.
Let me tell you what's hard to do, get fired up about brushing a duck blind when it's 97 degrees in July outside. But that's why he said, we got to go with daylight. We got to go that way.
Yeah.
We'll work till about,
when it's real early and it's cool.
We'll work till about 9 o'clock, he said, and then we'll come back out at 6. So if that tells you, we're going to work on that, then you're going to go build duck calls.
From 9 to 6.
I'm going to cook you lunch, then I'm going to lay down and take a nap. You're going to go back and build duck calls. And then when you get done, you're going to meet me right here, and we're going to go back over there when the heat breaks.
Yeah, when the heat breaks.
When the heat breaks.
I've got me a good nap and got
only 94
the
at this
heat.
I've charged my battery.
I used to laugh. He'd say,
no wonder Si takes so many naps.
Well, he'd say that heat's about to break. And I'd say, all right. But I was young, single. It didn't matter. Like, I didn't have nothing. I had nowhere to be other than whatever Phil Robertson needed me to be doing at the time. And so it was,
unbelievable.
man. But again, he got to do the fun part. He did the cutting. I did the toting. So, but I tell you what, you learn how to stack brush right, because if not, you got your butt chewed. And even then, you learn how to tie them elastic ropes from 1972 that he still had. And if you got a knot in it, you would get your butt chewed again. So he was a very particular man who had a way of doing things that,
the worst butt chewing you could get from Phil is if you broke his boat paddle.
Oh no! And if you belong to him, you better get your butt tore up
over a boat paddle.
Anything you break, you better get your butt whooped.
Okay,
that's why I told Al this. I said, Al, you have got some really good friends. I said, because if it's been me, when that crazy rascal comes talking about, hey, you either hit the road right now and don't ever come back, or come on, stand and get in line, I'm going to tear your butt up. I said, I would have been gone.
W.E.
Bye.
was
It's been fun.
W.E. was the ringleader of that crew. Him and Al. Of course, there's one kid was there. Phil didn't know who he was, and the story
he
goes,
just grabbed him. He had done whooped everybody else. He grabbed him. He said, "I don't know who you belong to, but yeah, bam, bam."
He said, "I don't know who you are, but you tell your mama I tore your butt up."
Weren't they all like 16?
Oh yeah, they were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
But you know
What it was is,
he-
hey, they had went to a neighborhood, okay, and got them some beer and got drunk.
Yeah, they went to the camp down the road there and got drunk.
And
Yeah,
then,
caught.
hey, as soon as that happened, they got Phil because they knew what he thought about alcohol.
When's
that
the
was
last-
after he had met Jesus?
When's the last time you talked to W.E.?
We saw
when
him-
I was up there.
Yeah.
When I was up there.
So you know the kid you're talking about, right?
No.
No, I'm just saying that the one you're talking about in that story
60.
dropped off a package at W.E.'s house not long ago.
Really?
Working for FedEx or UPS, one of them. And he come in there and said, "Are you the W.E. Phillips, like from West Monroe, Louisiana?" And he was like, "Yeah, why?" He said, "I had no idea who he was." And then he said, "I was the other one."
Yeah,
that
I was
day."
the one that got my
Talk
butt
about a
whooped.
small world, like
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
like I was the one that Phil whooped his butt.
And they were 16. Now they're 60.
Yeah, now they all crowding 60. That's but man, I got a good one time from it. For falsely accused of sinking his boat. And me and Godwin both got it for that one.
Yeah, you honey bun eaters.
Them fat boys.
Them
sucked
fat
my boat.
boys. He
Honey
said,
bun eaters.
he said that's what
Yeah,
happened.
that's what happened when you eat them honey buns, boy. You get fat and then you sink the darn boat.
No, he said, I'll tell you the exact quote because there's one I'll never forget. He said, "Yeah, them two fat boys over there." Like we weren't right there. Me and God were standing 2 feet from him. And he's them fat boys over there sunk my boat. And I was like, Phil,
You never had to worry.
there's a lot of things in my life I've done. I'll give you that. I did not launch your boat without a plug in it because I'd have sunk before I ever got to the boathouse. Like at this point, I was 315. If that plug ain't in that boat, I'm gonna be
I
knee
think
deep
gaining water. It's gaining water quick.
I'm gonna be knee deep in water
before it even gets out of the back of them.
And then come to find out it was Jimmy Red's kids. They finally fessed up. You know what I didn't get? An apology.
No,
You know what I did? You know what I didn't care about? An apology.
And you know what he didn't expect?
Yeah, because the problem is now I'm not gonna have anybody else call me fat boy in a loving way. If they call me fat boy, they gonna mean it. You know.
Yeah.
Then he's gonna get in. There's gonna be a fight.
Phil really meant it in a loving manner because he would love to do the same thing to Miss Kay's group.
Yeah.
He would walk in the house. He'd say, "Stone, Miss Kay's running with these heavy sisters these days," and they're all sitting there.
Yeah.
And they'll laugh. They would laugh.
He is the only person
know.
I know that could pull that off.
Well, he's just
Oh,
he was just like your football coach, man. Like he did all these things. It was all out of love. Wasn't none of it malicious. Like I mean,
Oh, no.
and
He
you
didn't mean-
and you knew that from him. Like you knew that even if he called you an idiot, it was to make you better. It wasn't to be derogatory towards you.
Oh,
And-
that's what
but-
they was trying me when I was growing up.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
But no,
training you.
here's what I'll say. I think with you, Si, they really meant it. But
Hey,
for
you want to tell you what? I didn't care. They can kiss my butt.
Well, you know,
My father warned him. He said, "Hey, you better leave him alone. One of these days, you're just gonna push him too far. He's gonna pick up a baseball bat and kill you."
that never happened.
You know, he almost whooped me and Jace, and we were 25 years old. We went frogging.
Oh, there ain't no limit to it.
No, ain't no limit. We went frogging, and when we got back, there was a cottonmouth on the boat dock. Well, we looked around. We didn't have a gun, so I handed Jace Phil's boat paddle, and it was one of those old. It was an old boat paddle, that wooden one.
Cypress.
And Jace lined up on it. He lined up on that snake, and when he come down on it, that boat paddle broke in half. So Jace looked around. He said, "See if you can fix that boat paddle." So I got a brace. I had halfway fixed it. The next day, we're in there building duck calls. Phil comes in and said, "Which one of you idiots broke my boat paddle?"
Stand up and take your medicine, boys.
And Jay just sat there. He didn't say a word. And then he finally said, "Well, there was a snake. We could have nothing to hit him with." And Phil said, "Hey, that ain't no snake club. That paddle." Then he went on a rant about where the paddle came from, what kind of wood it was made out of. Then he called us an idiot again. And I thought there for a second, he's fixing to whip our butts.
Yeah. And if you'd have said the right thing at the right time right then, he probably would
I
have.
was gonna say, if the answer had been wrong, yeah, you'd have got the store.
But then Jay told the story about when he was a kid, he got his butt whipped for losing the boat paddle. And then went back out on the river and found it. And he said, "I'm still bitter about that."
I mean, there's just there's just too many, man.
It's too many people.
Yeah,
It's ours. You think about how many people he baptized down on that river, and how many people in this town have stories about him.
I tell him all the time. I said, "Hey, when you wade out there, you stepping on dead bones everywhere."
Oh, I guarantee you. Yeah, it's the one of the we always talk about social media and how beneficial it can be and how detrimental it can be, but after that, getting on there and seeing all the memories and all the people tagging you and stuff and the impact that man had, that his, we like to call it a ripple. His ripple.
Tidal wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not even to the ripple part of it yet. Like his won't be a ripple for another 100 years, right? Like just because he was so bold and so upfront about the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's what that video that Stone brought up, it's Phil about our age, probably 30, 40 years ago. And you hear him say, "Almighty God in the flesh, the creator of the cosmos." And it hit me. My wife looked at me and goes, "Are you crying?" I said, "Yeah." Because the reason God gave Phil Robertson a platform is he knew he could trust him to just tell the gospel. Don't fancy it up.
No. Don't worry about the Hebrew.
Don't worry about all this.
Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that.
You could trust that Phil Robertson would get in front of one person or 100,000 people and say, "I know the way off this earth. There is hope. You're all going to die, and Jesus died too, but he came out of the ground." Yeah. And then he would say, "If you got a better plan than that, I'm all ears, but I doubt it."
Yeah. But
if you can beat it,
I'll listen.
Please share it with me.
And he's been saying, as you look back, like I've heard it at WFR, I've heard it at an event. It's the same message. Like he never switched it up.
No, didn't have to.
He understood that's the only message people needed to hear from him. Yeah. And you're right. Like I thought about him and John the Baptist met.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He said, "I ain't getting off of it." In the last
24 hours, I don't know how time works up there, but those two guys met, and they're the same guy.
That proves my point about he is animal.
What's that?
Well, because I'm telling you, he understood the creation like you're talking about. He was part animal, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Because he understood the creation and where he got it from.
I loved how sharp Phil was because this big muscle-bound guy, like weightlifter guy, huge, and Phil was talking to him and studying with him, and the first thing he asked him was, he said, "Let me ask you something." He said, "You got all these muscles. How are you going to get them out of the ground?"
Very direct.
Very direct.
No, it's a good question when you think about it.
He started right there and shared the gospel.
Very, very direct. I remember the first event I worked here. This is how far back. Me, Phil, Kay, and Godwin went to a sportsman's show in Natchez, Mississippi. Set us up a little old booth over there selling posters and duck calls and all the thing. But even then, that was my first time in public with Phil. Phil sat at that table for 8 hours a day. Right there, we were peddling duck calls, trying to make a living. And he sat right there, and he had that Bible by him. And if anybody dared walk up that he recognized needed it, that Bible went up. He wasn't worried about selling no duck call. I was there to do business, but Phil was there to go fishing.
Yeah.
He was a fisher of men. He may have been a duck hunter, but he was a fisher of men. And if he looked up through them sunglasses and recognized, I think this person needs it, guess what they got?
Yep.
They got a full-blown gospel sermon right there. And I don't care if that person just walked off and Phil recognized the person behind them needed it. They heard what he was saying. Phil gave it right back. He wasn't going to count on somebody being a hearsay.
Yeah.
He was going to give them a direct account, and me and Kay and Godwin were over there just laughing. I mean, like, because that's who Phil was. You know, I'll say this: at that time, Kay still had a perm. Man, she had big perm going on, and I remember she would like. It's so funny because Phil. There was about 3 places Phil would eat on the road: Arby's.
Good place.
Subway.
Against that one.
And I mean, that's just, and he would eat a pizza. So like every night, Kay would just go to the little bank bag and hand me and Godwin some cash. She said, "Can you go get me and Phil something to eat?" You know, I mean, it was just the wildest thing. Like it just, and to think of all the places we've been, all the things we've done together, and you know, I mean, it's just crazy.
Martin, that's where Si gets it, because when he's doing shows, he does the same exact thing, and I didn't know that. I mean, I would assume it, but Si, you do the same thing. You stop people and don't care how much time it takes. You're sharing the gospel with them.
Yeah. Yeah, Phil would. He would. You could just see him. I would see him in the line of people, you know, and this wasn't a big line at this time. Like, we were just duck hunters. Like, wasn't the Benelli show had just started. So like, it wasn't none of the hoopla was there yet, aside from the people that were like me that grew up watching Phil. Like, that was all that was there. But you could see him just sitting at that deal as he's signing a poster, signing duck call, but he ain't looking because he knows how to spell his name. He ain't worried about that. That's actually back when he wrote Phil Robertson, before he just went to Phil with an exclamation point. But he would be sitting there signing it, and you could just see him surveying the line, like, who am I going to get? And, buddy, as soon as they take a step forward, boom, it'd come open.
Well, that's
and
why,
here we go, you know.
It's crazy about thinking about, because I always ask myself, you know, where did it come from? But he was on the river, okay, all the time when he was fishing, okay, to provide his family with what he had to have, okay. But he taught, you know, because everything he done connected to the creation. Everything he done. So that crawfish story, the bird and the bees. Every one of the kids got that. Every one of the kids, even Sadie, you know, and they filmed that. You know?
Hunter just said he did too.
What? No, I'm serious.
Bet he did.
Because, you know, hey, that's why I said he's half animal. I'm telling you.
Oh, I use the dogs. Every time one of them dogs come in,
Run around with a rocket.
yeah.
Big
Well,
rockets.
Bullfrog asked me. She said, "What are all these dogs doing around here?" I said, "I'm glad you asked."
Oh man.
Oh,
I use that as what they call it, a segue.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of good stuff there
Oh yeah.
when you think about it.
it's
Yeah.
how Jesus did it.
Yeah.
You see that bird over there?
Yeah, let me tell you about him. He doesn't worry about it.
Yeah.
Oh, when you walked by this morning in the truck,
Yeah.
a dove lit on the high line. So I was sitting there and I was talking to Jesus. I said, you're gonna have to help me out during this, okay? I ain't quite got my balance back yet. So yeah. Because it's just, that's why the phrase I hear most often when I'm leaving somebody after talking to them or preaching to them is that, well, Uncle Si, I just can't see this God you're always talking about. And I always the same answer. I said, well, I pity you, ma'am or sir, because hey, I can't look anywhere, I can't go anywhere, I can't do nothing that I don't see it.
Amen. The seasons of the year.
Yeah.
That's what Phil always used to get with me. The seasons, he would say.
Well, it's just
He'd say,
too
"All
much.
right, we're in the rebirth."
Well, no,
All right,
because
come fall, he's like, we're headed to the cross. He said,
Well,
all right,
no, 'cause
here's the
this-
winter. We're in
yeah.
the death.
It's the deal about, okay, wait a minute. Hold, you don't believe, you got a problem with the resurrection? You don't believe that he could raise dead men? I said, you need to pay attention this winter. I said, when it starts to go towards spring, I said, hey, open your eyes. And I said, hey, you better be looking and looking every day, because it happens so fast that you'll miss it. I said, there's a resurrection like you ain't seen lately coming.
Yeah.
It's called spring.
Yeah.
I said, hey, everything's dead. There's no flowers. Then guess what? I'll wake up and guess what? My black pickup truck is solid yellow. It's called pollen. I said, you look around and there's flowers everywhere.
Oh,
All your trees are in bloom. Every tree's got a flower, you dummy.
There's the dummy.
There's the dummy.
Well,
big dummy.
Well, Si likes to tell stories when he gets nervous, Jay. And so when
Don't say.
yeah. If he's nervous, he's talking, and especially when the game wardens are questioning him. But when we went to go see Phil, we went a couple weeks back, and I'm so glad we did. Phil and Kay, and Phil recognized Si immediately. He wasn't sure about who I was at first. And then Si started telling stories. He's talking about fishing. He's talking about catching all these fish.
well, because the only thing Phil was saying is,
Yeah.
Si,
Yeah.
hey, Si, let's go. Get your truck and you take me out. Let's go to your house.
Yeah.
Get me out of here.
Jailbreak.
Get me out of here.
Hey,
So
so
all you had to do, Philip, was say, "I'm the guy that raised up and shot when the 40 till."
And didn't
Okay,
kill
bye.
nothing.
you don't know that.
Yeah, I do.
No, you
You
don't.
ain't cut a
No, you don't, because
That's why you was banned for life.
Hey, I'll say, Philip, look, here's what
Uh-uh.
I'll tell you. It's better being known for the guy that raised up and shot too early than the guy that took a dump and wiped your butt with a life jacket.
That's right. And then put it,
You know?
hey, not only that, but
No.
not where you
Then
go
put-
in the blind, you took a dump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that
and
wasn't
then-
me.
And wipe
No.
your butt and don't throw it away.
That's
You
what
throw
I'm
it back
saying.
in
You'd
the-
rather be the guy that shot too quick than that guy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So, but
Phil said, "What kind of man?"
but the cool
It
thing.
used to be who's the man, not what
Now-
kind of
now
man.
who
He
is
said,
that?
what,
Yeah.
what kind of man would do
Yeah,
something?
what kind of man was
But he didn't know who he didn't know who I was at first. But then as Si was telling that story about all them fish, he looked over there at me and he called me Mac. He said, "Mac, you believe this? All this about the story Si's telling?"
Yeah, I
And he
telling
was
about a
laughing.
Big catfish.
And I was like, "No, Phil, I never believe any of his stories."
Ugh.
But before,
He said he was stretching that one a lot.
yeah, he was stretching that one, Mac. And
Uh,
before we left, he hugged me. He knew who I was, and he told me he loved me. That's the last time I saw him, and that's how I wanted to remember
Well,
him.
he had a good day the day we was there.
He did. He
And
did.
when Nan was telling me, you better go see him now.
yeah.
I knew then, and I said, nope. I said, I ain't gonna go see him now.
Yeah. I said the same thing. They said, "You need to go up there." I said, I'm going with my last memory of him of us talking.
He was, yeah.
Like of us talking about ducks and all the things, right? Like
There's 2 times when he's actually shocked me. One of them was when he went overseas, and he actually stood on some of the beaches over there, that was tourist spots
yeah.
for World War II. When he come back, and he said, "Oh, by the way, I owe you an apology." And I looked, and I
Well,
said,
you better write that down.
no, yeah. And I said,
On record right now.
I looked, and I said, "Oh, something's very wrong here."
Yeah. You okay,
He
brother?
said, he said, I appreciate your service.
There you go.
Because he said, I didn't know what you boys went through. He said, but when I got on them beaches over there, he said, yeah, I owe you an apology. I appreciate you serving our nation.
Hmm.
So it's just one of them things that life is tough. Really is.
Yeah.
But the good point is, okay, look, the animal I'm talking about is with the Creator. Okay, and they're both happy. Okay, because look, there's no more tears, there's no more sorrow. Okay, he's put his time in. Okay, and I think the last 50 plus years, he put it in with God. Okay, because Barton and everybody in here has been saying, okay, he never missed an opportunity that if he had one person, okay, that one person was going to hear about Jesus Christ, the Messiah, okay, and our Lord and Savior. And he done it in such a way because he was just a good old country boy. He said it in a way that nobody could miss it.
Kept it pretty doggone simple.
It's a song that the musicians and artists sing, I'm a simple man. Phil Robertson was a simple man, but a very complicated one. A very, very knowledgeable man. Okay. He had 2 degrees. He is very smart. Okay.
And
Smart
imagine all that he knows now.
No. Yeah. See, that's the thing. He knows stuff that
he was brilliant here, even though very overall pretty quiet. He was brilliant.
Yeah,
here,
but he spoke when he needed to.
And you know what happened when he spoke? People listened.
Well, it's like
they all shut up.
Everybody shut up.
Yeah.
Except for Si.
Well, look, hey.
Yeah, but Si was his hype man.
Look,
that's right.
Like,
storyteller never shuts up.
One of my core memories of this life will always be every time Phil preached at Weiss Ferry Road or class, Si was his hype man.
Yep.
Because Si thought Phil was talking only to him. Si thought him and Phil were in the duck blind together. So Si, during the middle of the thing.
Yep.
Well,
no, hey, look.
I mean, Si would just, it was like him and Phil were the only 2 in the room.
Well,
now,
it was so good, man.
Well, because look, when I sing,
yeah,
okay, I'm serious. When I sing, I don't hear nobody else or
That's evident.
This is between me and the Lord.
Amen, buddy.
That's why when Jason the other day, when you have to say it because, hey, you kind of feel, wait a minute, hey, you've got it right, but you just didn't put enough emphasis on it. Because after Jason's preaching the other morning, when he said, okay, come on, if you need Jesus, come on down. And I said, boys, what he's trying to tell you is come to Jesus. And I said it loud.
No.
Jesus said, I like you added that. I said, well, I was just thinking it needs to be, a little more impact.
Just one more time.
One more time. I said, I want to make sure that what you had said, they didn't miss.
Hey.
Batman and Robin for Jesus.
Si a heck of an audience when you need a crowd, man.
Oh, no,
I'm here to tell you.
He'll take over your story before you know it.
Oh, man, I love it. Gosh, dang it. I mean, at some point, we got to wrap this episode up. One episode will never be enough.
We're going to talk about Phil for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, to capture what Phil Robertson meant to each and every one of us and to all of you listening out there, right? Like, I would say this, if you have some Phil memories you'd like to share, shoot them to us. hello@duckcommander.com. Hello at Duck Call Room.
It's been a long week.
Yeah, I'm sure we have hello@duckcommander.com too.
Hey, I'm going to add this to you guys, okay? Everybody, this is Jesus talking. I'll never forsake you or leave you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Jesus is always with you. Jace preached on it the other day, and he said, okay, the Father's for you. Jesus is with you, okay? And look, the Holy Spirit is inside you.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Folks, that is a win-win-win situation.
And it's the only win.
Hey, in this wicked world we live in today, if you doubt that, hey, there's wars all around us. People are dying, for crying out loud, unnecessarily. Okay? Man needs to learn, okay? There ain't but 2 commandments that really matter. Love God with everything you've got. Okay? And then turn around and love your neighbor.
And as Phil would say, if you do those 2.
Yeah, if you do those 2,
the other ones take care of themselves.
Yeah, the rest of it will fall in line.
He said he wrapped it up. He said he said he went from 10 down to 2. He said, you know why? Because those 2 cover the 10.
Yeah.
Like he made it again so simple, so clean.
Because here's the deal. Let me tell you why I've always told you when we speak about death. Death is nothing but a change of address. Okay, and if you doubt that, you need to go to Ecclesiastes, the last chapter, 12, and read it. When you die, this earthly tent is going to go in the ground and return to the dust that it came from. But the spirit goes back to the Almighty who gave it.
Amen.
You don't know about that, you need to. Okay, because everything else is crap. You put it bluntly. Okay, and if you don't know what crap is, it's dung.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That's right.
Okay, because hey, give me the conclusion. The conclusion here is fear God and keep His commandments, because that's all there is. We're talking about the Creator. My brother has left this earth. The tent, fleshly tent he was in, okay, it wasn't in good shape. Back was broke. He didn't have a quality of life, and I'm thankful that God Almighty called him home.
Amen.
Mhm.
Thankful
Okay,
for mercy.
because
man.
hey, he swear he's surrounded by those that love him. That'd be the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Okay, because they've done everything for him. Okay, and he's home with the Creator right now. I've told you, he's half animal, but he's half, and he's happy.
Yeah.
Because he's with the Creator right now.
He's half animal, but he's fully restored.
He's fully restored, and hey, all he's waiting on is the glorified body that he's going to get whenever Jesus comes back to get his people.
Amen, buddy.
Okay, and hey, that's the day I'm waiting on.
Yep.
Amen,
Right
buddy.
now, I'm kind of out of like a fish out of water, but hey, I'll make it through it. Okay, because me and the Lord talked about it about 15 minutes ago before I come in here.
Amen, buddy.
Okay,
And we're gonna
like I
go.
said, everything else is a bunch of dung.
And we're gonna go
Oh.
fishing. We're gonna go do
Hey.
some things to
Yeah.
get out of.
Si, you're not alone.
Yeah. Even
No,
though.
that's what I wanted to make the point a while ago was okay. You're never alone.
Mhm.
If the Father's for you, the Son's with you, and the Holy Spirit lives inside you, you big dummy, wake up, come to your senses. Okay? You're with the man. Okay? And that man is Jesus Christ. Jesus was a human being that walked this face of this earth, but he was also the creator. Okay?
Amen.
Can't beat him, boys. You need to join him.
I know, Phil, you told us not to cry, but things happen.
Well,
Jesus,
hey.
even Jesus wept when he lost his friend, knowing he was coming back. We know
Lazarus.
Phil
Yep.
is restored. We lost our friend.
These are not tears of sadness.
Mm-mm.
Okay? These are tears of joy. These are tears of victory. Okay? And there's hair on my body standing up right now. Look, the war has been won. There's still skirmishes going on. But hey, God has done won the battle.
So you know what the scary thing is? I look at my 3 kids, and I know Phil is in there somewhere,
Hmm.
and that scares me to death. I said, I know some of that bad is in there, but I look in my youngest one's eyes, and she's got that wild eye like y'all got. I'm thinking that, what a legacy.
When you see your woman, tell her I appreciated all she done for Kay and Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, because she's kind of, it takes strong will woman to take care of business.
And she is that. She is strong
Yep.
Amen.
and stubborn.
No nonsense.
That's why I
Yeah.
texted. I
Yeah.
texted her last night. I tried to give it a little time because I was trying to think of something impactful to say. And I just came back with 3 words. I love you.
Mhm.
Like
Hmm.
for her,
Well, a friend of mine,
for Dan the butler, for crying out loud.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh man,
his
yeah.
wife died, and when I showed up for the funeral, I said, "Hey, I don't know what to say to you, but I love you, and I'm here. If I can do anything, tell me. But I don't know what you're going through.
yeah, I
don't-
just
I don't
decided.
know how to help you.
I decided to go with what Phil always wrapped up everything with, right?
Oh,
I only tell you this because I love
I
you.
love you.
Because I love you.
I'm out. And then he would walk off. Whatever stage he was on, that's how he
did
ended
that.
it. He ended it with two things. He ended it with a super clean representation of the gospel, and he ended it with "I love you." Like, that's crazy, right? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Well, I
those
forget.
two things
Yeah.
are the only ones that matter. Those two things. Everything else doesn't matter.
Don't even make it. Ain't there.
It ain't there.
Yeah.
So you know what? In a fitting way to wrap this one up, we're gonna end it with a super clean representation of the gospel. And Johnny D's gonna try to read it. I
1
think.
Corinthians 15:3. For what I received, I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures. We only tell you this because we love you.
And that is the end of the story. So get on board.